Willow Creek Springs presents Healthy Living with your host, Joe Grumbine.
Well, hello and welcome to the Healthy Living Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Grumbine, and today I've got a very special guest with me. Her name is Angela Jenkins, and Angela is the founder of Health is Local. She's got some degrees behind her. She's got 30 years, more than 30 years in clinical nutrition, and she's built her work around a simple idea that the body is an interconnected biological system, not a pile of isolated symptoms. So she teaches a root cause approach through what she calls the root cause lens, combining real food nutrition, environmental awareness, and strategic detoxification. And that's all I need to hear. Angela, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me, Joe. I appreciate it.
Well, it's a pleasure. I'm glad you reached out and you fit right into our audience. We're all here building a community based around health and healthy living, and there's so many aspects to it. You brought up, your concept is really important. We deal a lot with holistic concepts and practices here, meaning that we're treating the whole body, not just some specific point on the map. And Western medicine likes to target symptoms and single molecules and say, okay, here's the thing we're going to do. And it always sets these cascades of problems into motion and very seldom cures anything. So welcome to the show. Why don't you tell me a little bit about how did you get into this? I always like to hear the guest genesis story, like what brought you to this?
Excuse me. Well, it all started actually with my own health issue. Just to give a little bit of background. I mean, 35 years as a dietitian, the last 20 of it, one door in the conventional system, one foot in the conventional system, one foot out. So definitely realizing some time ago that what I was doing wasn't having the impact that I wanted to, and that I wanted to take it further.
Okay.
And so under that premise of understanding, you begin to realize that the conventional system often is treating symptoms, and there's a time and a place for that. There absolutely is. I don't want to put that system, but it's more of a sick care system as opposed to a wellness system. And I think, in our circles, we hear that a lot.
Yes.
So it's not, I think it's almost not disputable at this point, just because once you realize what the root cause of a problem is, then you have to take it that step further. It's like, okay, wait a minute. If I suppress this symptom, am I actually causing more problems and just pushing the issue further and further down the line? And so once we realize that that's what's going on, and I've got multiple examples of that I can give, but when it came to my own health, my kidneys were failing. And as a dietitian, this was 2021. I went down this path of, going through the conventional system. And ironically, at the time, I was a dialysis dietitian in the hospital. And the nephrologist told me at the time, he said, well, we'll just watch it because you look healthy. And I'm like,
oh, gosh.
I said, well,
I can tell you some stories about that one. Yeah.
I said, well, no, you can watch it and we'll track through you. And I'm going to go figure out what the problem was.
Yeah.
And I did. And once you have that understanding for your own personal health, then you want to be able to share that with other people. And it extends it extends it pretty much into any realm, into any disease process. And so that's
I went
background.
9 months not treating an aggressive cancer because the doctor told me I was so healthy that it probably wasn't cancer. And I was like, cool, I guess I'll let my body take care of itself. And I went 9 months deeper down that road as a result. And so I'll certainly never do that again.
Right. Yeah.
So
it's hard.
You were already in the field. And then, for people who don't know anything about dialysis, it's horrible. Anybody who gets to the point where they need dialysis, it's generally not a long road after that. I mean, it's sort of a last minute patch for a real bad problem. So what ended up happening? Like, how did you end up solving it? You're still here, which is
Yeah,
makes me
and
happy. Yeah.
healthier than ever before.
I love it.
I went after figuring out what the problem was, and it took several practitioners before I landed on somebody who said, "Hey, let's do hair analysis and figure out what your body's dumping."
Hmm.
And I thought, okay, sounds like a good thing to me because unbeknownst to me, I didn't know that you couldn't necessarily do blood work and figure out what the heavy metals were because your body will deposit it in places to try to keep it safe,
Hmm.
keep yourself safe from it, but it will dump it in your hair. And
Yeah.
so I
Oh,
had
I didn't know that. That's fantastic.
well, intermittently. So you have to be cautious with interpretation too.
Okay.
So, because your body, when it detoxifies, doesn't do it all at one time. It does it in
Correct.
cycles, and just being aware of that and where you are at what place and time and what part of the process is also, I think, quite important.
Hmm.
Which is why having a professional help you is also very important. But
Sure.
it said the hair analysis indicated I had a lot of cadmium in my system,
Oh,
and
all
which is
right.
extremely nephrotoxic,
Yeah.
which then
Jewelry
leads me
makers
down.
get hit with that pretty bad.
Right. And it's in our conventional food system through the phosphate fertilizers too. And it's in glass that's colored, not just glass, but other dishes that are colored red. I mean, you go down through there's a huge list.
Right.
And you start trying to weed through, okay, do I have any current sources in order to make sure that I can detoxify? And then that was the next question, how do I detoxify?
Right.
And so I took the advice of the person I was working with, and we started moving the needle, so to speak. Since then, I've taken it even further because I realized at that point in time that I this was only the tip of the iceberg, and if I didn't get on top of other aspects of my own health, despite being a dietitian that practices what she preaches, that I was not healthy. And
Right.
I didn't even know it. But, when you start looking at, like we were talking about, all the symptoms,
Mhm.
as you begin to detoxify your kidneys, guess what happens? You develop other symptoms. And you're like, where did this
Yeah,
come
yeah. Your
from?
kidneys are a pretty important piece of your physiology, and they do a lot of work, a lot of heavy lifting all the time. They don't stop working. They're always going at it. And when they're not working right or when they're getting themselves back in shape, there's likely affecting things around them in a pretty profound way.
Oh my, yes. Absolutely. And then, figuring out, okay, so what, you would think that in healthcare that you would have more education on detoxification, but we just don't. I mean, 30 plus years of doing this, and I was aware that detoxification was a thing,
Hmm.
but I wasn't aware to what degree it impacts so many diagnoses.
Oh, yeah.
And then once you realize that it's tough to go back from it because it's like, okay, now that I know this, how can I help other people?
Can't
And
unring that bell. Yeah. And it's good that people are finally, I don't know if it finally, but they're coming more aware of the whole picture. The human body is this incredible machine that's got all these systems woven together on a macro level, on a cellular level, on a microscopic level, on an atomic level. Like, I mean,
right,
everything is co-mingling, coexisting, affecting each other all the time. And to think, oh, I'm just going to do this big thing and think it's not going to, have this giant cascading effect around is ridiculous. And people think, oh, I'm just going to go detox. And they don't
right.
realize, well, what are you doing? Like, okay, you get this out of here and you put it somewhere else, or you get rid of some of it, but it doesn't all go away. You're stirring up a pot of some potentially pretty toxic stuff. I don't know. It seems like you could get problems. I know they have a term. I'm still dealing with a little chemo fog, so I don't remember all the terms of everything, but there's a term for when you detox a little too hard and you get sick from it. Sure.
Herxheimer
That's
reaction.
it.
Mhm.
Exactly. So that happens pretty regularly. People, just helping themselves to these, cleansing herbs and these fasting and all these things, which I fully supporting, but be aware of, maybe moderation or start slow, or I don't know. I'd love to hear your point of view about, a healthy way to go after this.
Sure. Yeah. What I promote is having a system to go after it. I mean, understanding one, what your toxic burden is to begin with is a great place to start, because if you have any current exposures and you try to detox, you're just going to make yourself sick. I mean, or you're going to just be moving it through your system without impact for the most part. I mean, if you're being effective at detoxification.
Right.
But then making sure that you're approaching it systematically so that you're supporting all of your biochemical systems in order to make sure that you're not recirculating, because that is a very big problem. So when people do, just as a for instance, a liver cleanse, a single liver cleanse, and they're like, well, I'm going to do this for a month. Well, that's great, but did you capture the toxins that were coming out of your liver?
Right. Where'd they go? Yeah.
And most people are constipated, and they don't, well, I shouldn't say most people are constipated. A
A lot
lot
of
of
people
people are
are. A lot of
constipated.
people. Yeah, for sure. It's very common. Yeah.
And they don't realize that constipation, by definition, will force a situation for recirculation. And so understanding that all of these things have to, like, and that's just one example. I mean, there's much more to it than that. I mean, because it's your liver, your lymph, your kidneys, you actually excrete
Right.
some things through your lungs, your brain, your lymphatic system detoxes in the middle of the night. And so rest is so important. My approach, and there's a bunch of really good practitioners out there that have a different approach. Mine tends to be more from the natural way of doing things, getting outside, getting sunshine, doing some grounding. I think there's enough science behind that now at this point to say, hey, we just need to get away from our electronics, because even though they are not toxins per se, they are stressors for the body. That's clear. And then just making sure that we're looking at it again through the root cause lens. What are my genetics? What are my genetic predispositions? Although I think a lot of people lean too heavy on their genetics for explanation and
Yeah.
use it as an excuse at times.
Right.
Like,
Yeah. An
oh,
easy excuse. Right.
my mother was overweight, so I'm just going to be overweight, sort of thing.
Right.
Well, we now know that's the smallest part of the equation, but
Yeah.
the problem is still that we live in a very toxic world, and I'm grateful that there's at least some attention to it now, because previously there wasn't. We were all just like, it's toxins aren't a thing. I'm like, oh, toxins are a thing.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely are. And so understanding that we do live in a toxic world and minimizing that burden as much as possible is really that's the general approach that I take. And then
I
getting
love that.
exercise, moving your body, gardening's huge.
Yes.
Growing your own garden. I love that garden squats are a great exercise, and you get sunshine, and you're grounding all at the same time. It's a 3-for-1.
So I don't know if you're aware, but I run a nonprofit called Gardens of Hope. And we have a little botanical garden and a small farm where we offer what we call therapeutic horticulture. And it's exactly what you're talking about.
I love that.
And it makes everything better, whatever you're doing. If you're healthy, you'll get healthier. If you got a problem, it'll help you get through it. And I just did a podcast episode on my own about 3 garden exercises that are for a heavy workout, which is, shoveling sand, pushing a big heavy wheelbarrow up a hill, and moving heavy logs, which is something you do on a farm. And you get the best workout ever. I'd never go to a gym, it's all good. And like you said, the grounding, there's a lot to that. People don't realize, you start collecting positive ions, and people don't understand like what pH is and what it means. And it means things move through membranes. It means things start sticking to you that oughtn't, or they don't leave you and they ought to. And this exercise is simply walking barefoot in the sand can help to get everything moving again. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah. And in order to detoxify, your body has to be in more of an alkaline state. And so the question is, how then do you get it there?
Right.
Eating is one way to help facilitate that.
It helps.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, wow, I love this conversation. I'm sorry. I talk too much when I get
Oh, you're
excited
good.
about a conversation. So I'll try to give you most of the talking, but we're really in line. So your practice, you were working with dialysis patients in the past. That's a pretty heavy duty dietary responsibility. Like diet is so impactful on the kidneys. I couldn't think of much of a more important place for diet to be involved. What's your regimen with people that are going through dialysis?
Well, and to be clear, I don't work with people in that position anymore, but
Oh, okay.
it's okay because it's interesting actually. I think because if there was something I could emphasize in this particular part of the conversation, it would be that one size does not fit all. So in a
Right.
pre-dialysis state, your approach to nutrition is quite different than in a dialysis state because your needs are dramatically different.
Hmm.
So I think that oftentimes that messaging gets lost in the noise out there because everybody thinks, I say everybody, I did it again. I didn't
A lot
all,
of people.
it's not all or nothing.
Yeah, yeah, a lot of people.
A
Yeah.
lot of people think that, carnivore is the way to go, or vegan
Right.
is the way to go, and I'm like, hold on here,
Right.
it's
Right.
not
Right.
one size fits all.
Not at
You know,
all.
in the nutrition realm, when it comes to what causes classically 95% of kidney disease is because of diabetes or hypertension, one or the other or both.
Okay.
So, in the absence of that, there's a very small subset of other autoimmune sorts of things that go on for the most part that captures the rest of it. So, but that approach prior to your kidneys failing to the point that you need dialysis is quite different from when you're on dialysis and also relative to whatever the modality is that you choose, whether it's hemo or peritoneal. So,
Okay.
so
Fair enough.
those things all have to be considered. And the same thing along the lines with, look at the general population. If you're looking to detoxify and become healthy, it is not one size fits all just
All right.
because your genetics are different. And so I actually, with my programs, I do some genetics testing also. And
Okay.
it helps
I
me
like
fine
this.
tune and cater it in to make sure that we're catering a program. We may
Yeah.
start in one place, but then we can go, oh, wait, you have this set of genes, which means that explains actually this thing over here, this symptom or this diagnosis over here. And then we couple that, or this is the way I do my programs. I couple it with some gut testing so
Okay.
that we have a more complete picture of where we are right now and then how to cater to your genes moving forward. And it really dials the whole process in to a degree that I mean, because I can be more targeted. I don't just do like, oh, okay, everybody's going to do this general thing, and
Right.
we know that you have
Oh,
mercury amalgams in your mouth, and while you're looking at going and getting those taken out, hopefully, maybe but some people can't afford to
I
do
did.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if they can't afford to do that, then what do? Just sit and wait?
Right.
No, we don't have to. And that's the cool message because we're also working with dialing in the biological component because we are a biological system.
Yeah. We're
Making
always
sure
moving. Yeah.
that the biology is supported in order to make sure that facilitates the detoxification also. So
I love that. Well, I mean, and some people anyways, don't think that your body's doing the healing. Like all the things we do externally to cause the body to get well doesn't make you get well. It causes the body to heal itself. And so, like you said, waiting is generally the worst thing you could do if you have a bad thing, because bad things generally get worse when you wait.
exactly.
And because your body's not working, it's not healing itself. So if it's not healing, the thing that's bad is getting worse. And doing certain things, whether it's the food intake or the lack of it, or fasting, or whatever it is that you're doing, you're causing your body to have certain reactions or to stimulate this or to keep that from being stimulated, whatever it is. I am so respectful of your approach to the one-on-one way of looking at things. I have a number of guests on this show that share that, and that's kind of, again, it falls in line with the holistic approach. There are some things that you could say are sort of blanket, all people generally respond to certain things. Why don't you walk us through some of the, baseline things that if you're a human being and you're alive, you probably ought to do this or ought not to do that. And then you get to all the individual stuff.
Sure, absolutely. I usually start with explaining to people that sometimes healing is very boring.
Yeah.
It's the boring things.
And hard
Like,
work sometimes too.
yeah, like getting up when the sun comes up and
Yeah.
getting first light sun exposure and going to bed when the sun goes down, or at least close to it, and avoiding electronic light, the blue light from the screens. All of those things are just baseline. Okay. Nutrition, foundationally, eating clean is super important. I would say intermittent fasting, but on some level it depends on, well, like if you're midlife, sometimes we stay away from
Some type of
fasting
fasting.
too long.
Yeah.
Yeah, but at least for 12 hours overnight,
Yeah.
not eating for 3 hours before going to bed so that you get restful sleep.
Yeah.
Moving your body every single day in some shape, form, or fashion, so that your lymphatic system is moving. And so all of those things are just foundational. They are, and interestingly enough, I call it my foundation meal plan and lifestyle segment.
I love it. I love it. I think that I agree with everything that you're saying so far. I think the processed food is probably like the most obvious elephant in the room,
Right.
grow some food yourself and then you know where it's been. I mean, that's really been my big approach lately. But what about water? I know there's so much hype about water, and we talk about alkalinity. People drink alkaline water like they think it's going to make their body alkaline. It doesn't really necessarily work that way.
Hi, this is Joe Grumbine, and I wanted to share an update. The platform that hosts this podcast has made some changes to the subscriber settings, and we have a number of subscriber-only episodes that we offer to the supporters, and for a minimum of $3 a month, we can get you signed up. And if you're already signed up and you're having some kind of trouble locating these episodes in the other platforms, I would say maybe the best answer is to unsubscribe and then resubscribe. I'm sorry for the hassle. I don't have any way to make a change, but I'm very grateful for all the support. Thank you.
No, it doesn't. So it's expensive to get those machines. I'm a big advocate as another foundational approach for reverse osmosis filtered water, just because, even though it takes out everything, including the good stuff, it's the thing that comes closest to getting all the bad stuff out. And
Right.
so from that perspective, we can always remineralize water, but we can't get the rest of the toxins out. And so at this point, I don't think it's even disputable that our water supply, whether it's public water or well water, it's got contaminants in it. There was a study done not that long ago by the EPA that said 54% of all water that they tested, whether it was from a public water supply or whether it was a well, had at least one PFAS in it, at least one, which means
Yeah. And these are those forever chemicals that I forget what that movie was, Blackwater or something. It was like, it's a really good movie about a really bad thing. And these things mess everything up. Like they start messing with your chromosomes. I mean, it's really bad.
Absolutely.
And we're getting exposed to it on all levels, everywhere we go. And like you said, it's in the wells. So until they figure out some way to remove it, and I don't know how well reverse osmosis does, but it probably helps some.
It does. Yeah, it does a reasonably good job. And the other thing I think that deserves some attention is that a lot of people think because if they're on a well that they're safe.
Right.
You're not, and it's just not true, because I actually have a client, believe it or not, that does some of the cleanups that happen all over the country. So he's traveling everywhere, like when there's a spill in a waterway.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he does. And then you go back and you look and you can pinpoint where that was and what aquifer that's going to go into. So for instance, if there's a spill in Iowa, it's affecting me where I am in Springfield, Missouri, because it's the same aquifer. But people don't think in those terms a lot of times. And so just drawing some attention to it, I think is useful, because there is clean water. If you think about it, if we're drinking enough water, we should be drinking way more than what we're eating. And so the exposures there can potentially be tremendous.
Agreed. You brought up a really good point. Some people do well on a keto diet. Some people do good on a carnivore diet, at least for some period of time. Some people do well on a vegan diet. Some people can't do a vegan diet. I mean, there's all these different ways to do it. And I learned, with my cancer that there's a very specific diet that helped me tremendously. That was the opposite of what I was doing before, thinking I was being healthy. So doing the research, learning about yourself and your specific needs, there's a lot of ways to do it. I think your genetic testing is important. I think the gut biome, that's a whole conversation. Like I mentioned before, we're going to run out of time here before we run out of conversation. So I'm certainly going to invite you to come back and go deeper into some of this stuff. You've been practicing for a long time. I always like to hear a story or two about somebody or some people that you've had a really dramatic impact on. Is there a couple of stories or at least one that you'd like to share with us?
Sure. I have a recent one too. A very recent one. It's a lady that I've been working with for almost a year, and it's been a challenge because there's a lot of nuances. I'm a single female and she's a single female, and single people have the burden of responsibility of everything falling on their shoulders, right? We don't have help. And so, I mean, it was good for me because I was able to kind of relate to her in that way also. But her job before she retired, just before we started working together, was to clean up toxic waste sites.
Oh boy.
So even though you are doing the best you can to shield yourself from
Yeah.
what it is that's going on, I mean, it's just impossible.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
in it and out of it every single day. And she did this
It's
for,
like radiation. You're never gonna keep it away from you entirely, no matter what you put on your body or think
yeah,
you're doing. Yeah.
I think she did this for 16 years.
Ooh,
Yeah.
ouch. Oh man.
So here you are when you start looking at again, go back to the foundations, you have somebody who's working, sometimes 10, 12, 14 hours a day. And I think a lot of people can relate to that. And then trying to piece together how to eat right and your what I call your systems around making sure that your functional support is available to you, which means I'm big on making sure that people are meal planning so that they can have available to them what they need if they don't have a garden in the backyard, so that the right choice is the easy choice. It's just within reach. And that's we're human beings. That's what we're going to do. We're going
Right.
to reach for easy. So we worked through a lot of that over the last, and it's been about 10 months. And she called me 2 days ago. And she
Okay.
texted me and said, hey, and she's had progress. She started losing weight finally because weight loss resistance is a part of that.
Mhm.
It would come out in phases and she'd start feeling poorly. And I'd say, here's what we need to do. We're going to just capture what's coming out and get some rest, drink plenty of fluids, and you just stay present with the process. Well, she finally, finally the other day, it just tickled me because she was all excited. She goes, I can't even tell you. I was at my fascial release lady, and she's like, all these toxins are coming out of my body, and I'm releasing everything. And I feel so good today that I can't even, I mean, I couldn't keep her. She kept talking and
I
talking.
love it. I love
Just
it. I
listened.
love
And I
it.
said, I am so happy for you. I can't even tell you, because sometimes detox doesn't happen all at the same time. When you're
Well,
doing it and you're staying diligent with the process and you
right.
know what you're doing, it gets a bad name because people start feeling poorly and they quit. And then
Right.
what they
Exactly.
shouldn't do is quit. They should
Right.
learn that this symptom is okay. What is going on? What do I need to do in order to make sure that I'm not recirculating whatever is causing this problem? And so
Exactly.
we finally got there to where she was like, yeah, it was great. It was just,
Wow. I love that. That's so rewarding. So you were working with dialysis patients for a while, and you say that you're not now. What's your practice like today?
now I consult through an office here in Springfield. I do that, and then I do mostly detoxification through there. I do my own side consulting for detoxification, and then I also work with an online platform, kind of in my free time, just to make sure that I'm gonna say I'm an addict for being a dietitian, so that I can help people and just make sure that I
I
can.
love it. You're passionate. You love you know what you do helps people, so you want to do more of it. I love that.
Sure.
Is there something you have planned for the future that's beyond what you're doing now?
Oh, yes. Yes, yes, absolutely. My business name is Health is Local, and a lot of that was founded on the understanding that there is no food transparency in America. And so once we realized that, I think the most recent example that hit headlines is I don't know if you heard about the issues with Primal Kitchen and the brand the brand
No, no,
caramel
no.
condition. Yeah, it's made some headlines again. When I went back and looked at it, there was some reporting that was done on it some time ago, but it's recirculating right now. And it's the brand that was supposed to have avocado as the base for the majority.
Oh, yes, yes. That there was no avocado in. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, or there was other things
Or,
and avocado. I'm not quite sure.
yeah, but it wasn't what they said by
Right.
any stretch. Yeah.
Right. So
There's
that's
a
one
few
more.
studies coming out on that recently. Yeah.
Yeah. So that is a great recent example of what lack of food transparency. Here, the label says one thing, and so we think we're getting something
Mhm.
that we're not getting. And so I have kind of this larger initiative, and I have from the very beginning of teaching people about the lack of food transparency,
Mhm.
understanding how to make better food choices, and why it is that your health truly is on a local level, not just from the detoxification cellular side, but as you go out in concentric circles from yourself, making
Mhm.
sure that you have access to fresh, healthy food, just like what you talk about, Joe.
Mhm.
So my plan to answer you, that was the long version of my
That's all
answer.
right. We get along well.
I'm gonna have I when I got divorced, I had to leave the farm. I want my regenerative farm back.
I love that. I love that. I love that. Well, if you're ever in Southern California, I'd love to show you our spot and what we're doing, what we've done, but definitely you're on the right track. Well, listen, Angela, we're short on time now, but is there a central thought that you would like to leave our audience with?
You know, if you're not feeling well and you want to make progress with your overall health, don't lose heart. There is hope. Understand that maybe you just haven't asked the right question yet.
Hmm.
And because I think that's part of the larger problem. And don't be afraid to go outside of the conventional system because I think there's a lot of answers out there. But it does oftentimes it just takes a different lens. And like I promote, I mean, if we go after it from the root cause lens of what's the root cause of the problem,
Yeah,
then we're going to fix it for a lifetime as opposed to just treating a symptom. So
I love that. I love that. Well, more than likely, you're going to have some listeners that are like, wow, I need to talk to this lady. How do we get a hold of you? Share any contact that you like or anything you want to promote.
sure, absolutely. You can just email me if you want to, Angela@healthislocal.com. That's probably the quickest and easiest way to get in touch with me. If you want to actually book a discovery call, you can go on my website, www.healthislocal.com, and there's probably 16 or 17 buttons on there to book a call with me.
Nice. Make
So,
it easy for them. Whatever you touch, you're going to get to that place, right?
eventually. So that's probably the easiest way to get in touch with me. So
I love that. Well, Angela, this has been fascinating. And again, I'd love to have you back to go deeper into some of this stuff. We barely scratched the surface on some really important topics. So just want to thank you for joining us today.
okay, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure as well. This has been another episode of the Healthy Living Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Grumbine. I want to thank all of our listeners for making the show possible, and we will see you next time. This has been another episode of the Healthy Living Podcast. We produce this show so that people can share their stories, people that have overcome obstacles, people that are undergoing obstacles. We're building a community of health-minded individuals. If you're interested in supporting the show, please leave a review on the platform you're listening to it on. If you're interested in becoming a guest, please send an email to itsjoegrumbine@gmail.com, or you can send a note into the notes section of the podcast. All right. Well, thank you for supporting this show, and we hope you've enjoyed it.